More Pleasant are simply unstoppable. Racing pull off the goal of the season, and Molynes introduce a new message to the JPL. But we start one place and one place only, and that's Anthony Spalding Complex, where Chapelton came to crash the party. This is Match Week 15 review show. Yeah, people, welcome back to Champion Fan, and we got one more review show right before 2025. It was Match Week 15, and all games were played on the Sunday. But as promised, we're heading into the jungle, where Arnett was playing host to Chap Maroons. Okay, in terms of the lineup for each team, Arnett first, there were some changes, of course. Surprisingly, their starting wingers Shea Smith and Kimani Arbine are rested. In come Marlon Allen and Kelson, and Shadika Wizard remains in the starting lineup since coming from schoolboy football. As for Chapelton Maroons, there was also an interesting change. Levon Williams was out of the starting lineup, but Demari Deacon was back in the starting lineup after being on the bench in the last game. No, Arnett started off his game, well, in typical fashion. They had majority of the ball in the early scenes, but not much was really happening in the final third. Except there was an early yellow card for DeAndre Cunningham, and this will prove important to keep an eye on this one. But the game burst into life when Arnett finally came up the right hand side. A simple shot was played into the near post of Prince Daniel Smith, and of course we all know no keeper like with the ball bubble just before it reaches him. He spilled the shot, and a very alert Warner Brown was on hand to backheel the ball straight to Marlon Allen for an easy tap-in. 1-0, and the first goal basically came out of nowhere. Again, if you look at the replay, it is felt that Smith could have done a bit better with the shot, but again, credit to Brown and Allen to be on hand to tuck it away. Credit to Chapelton though, they kind of came into life after that goal. They started to get their foot more on the ball and was trying to carve out something. But it was Arnett that still were carving out the better chances. They definitely should have been 2 up, where Warner Brown successfully robbed the ball here, and then one-on-one with Prince Daniel Smith, he ended up hit the keeper instead of the back of the net. Early escape for Chapelton right there. And they will continue to probe as they were looking to extend the lead, but some excellent defensive work this time by the Chapelton backline was keeping them out. And then their star player decided to put them on his back. Demari Deacon became a demon in this game after that and terrorized the Arnett backline, running at them at full speed any chance he get. He carved up his great chance for Javel Ellis, but his shot was parried by the knee of Roger Williams and out for safety. But it was sign of things to come. Deacon was not over, and some slick moves by him right here on the right hand side carved up a chance for himself, but he managed to hit the post. But he was also pivotal in the big game-changing moment of the game. Again, he was running through midfield, and he collided with Cunningham, who took him down, and the referee was already on hand with his yellow card out of his pocket. No, I feel at this point he probably running from so far, never realized it was Cunningham, but since he already took out his yellow card, and of course with the likes of Deacon lead the protest, I think he had no choice to brandish the second yellow card, and Cunningham was off to the showers. Because if you look at the replay, sure, Deacon was advancing, but with the entire Arnett backline back there, I don't necessarily think the tackle warrants a second yellow card. Anyway, Arnett will now have them backs against the wall. They're now 10-1 down in only 26 minutes. Chapelton stepped up the gas and tried their best to get the equalizer, especially before the first half, and they came close on numerous occasions, especially with this shot right before the end of the half. But Arnett survived 1-0 into the break. Second half though, I felt Xavier Gilbert did some smart tactical tweaks. I know Arnett was doing a much better job in keeping Deacon quiet and reducing Chapelton to shots from outside the box. The Maroons kept trying though, as they were trying their best to unlock that Arnett defense. But they were being a bit overzealous at this point as the clock began to tick down, and then Gilbert throwing his speedy wingers of Arbine and Shea Smith into the game, and with so much space at the back of Chapelton as they chased that equalizer, Arnett actually have some decent chances to even extend their lead. Chapelton, for their credit, was also still fighting to get an equalizer, but again their shots were just going wayward. Gilbert was probably feeling delighted that his defense was doing well to hold off Chapelton despite being a man down, but probably tear out his hair after he saw the goal they gave up. Again, some nonchalant defending saw Deacon came alive again in the game and was able to play the ball at the top of the 6-yard box, and Williams, despite being crowded out, managed to get a foot on the ball and pass Roger Williams in goal to give Chapelton an equalizer. 1-1, I know all momentum was there for the Maroons. But they didn't exactly capitalize on that momentum. They kind of seemed to be more reserved and was hoping just not to lose the game, and they allowed Arnett majority of the ball with roughly 12 minutes remaining. Arnett managed to cover 2 more big chances and they came close, especially on display. But in the end, the Maroons themselves hung on and the game ended 1-1. So a very entertaining game here in the jungle, but how was it in terms of stats? Okay, in terms of possession, Arnett had 46% of the possession compared to Chapelton Maroons 54. Arnett had 12 total shots in the game compared to Chapelton 16. But here's the real difference. Arnett managed 8 of those 12 on target, while Chapelton only managed 3 of their 16 on target. In terms of dangerous attacks, Arnett only had 68 going forward, while Chapelton was of course more proactive throughout the game and had 91. 3 corners to Arnett and 9 corners to Chapelton. So yeah, let's start with the junglers first. You could say it's not a bad result in the end after, of course, losing a man early in the game. But you also would feel that if Brodies took away his chances, they may have walked away here with that 3 points. While Chapelton, they didn't get the 3 points either, but they have to credit their play to fight him back, and they better buy Deacon a run of drinks for the new year. But anyway, once again, it finishes Arnett Guns 1, Chapelton Maroons 1. Now we move on to our next game, which was the curtain raiser, of course, as Tivoli Guns welcomed the visit of Humble Lion. In terms of the starting lineup, Tivoli's setup is looking much more familiar as the usual faces are all there, but keep a special eye on number 23, Trevor McCain. While Humble Lion, in the match card, you could say they welcomed the return of Andre Clennon, but interesting enough, at the final minute before kickoff, he was replaced in the lineup with Clear Clark, but you will eventually see him into the game in the 14th minute. Very unusual in my opinion. But when the game kicked off, I think both teams were a bit sluggish to get out of the blocks. Tivoli seemed to be fine with the Humble Lion having the majority of the ball, and therefore Humble Lion found their footing much earlier in the game. But eventually Tivoli grew into it. They had a major chance early on. This ball slipped across the 6-yard box and found Nelson, who was probably more worried about getting his foot on the ball than picking a side of the goalkeeper, and managed to squander a big chance for Tivoli. Humble Lion will retaliate though. Clear Clark did some good dancing moves here and then let off a rasping shot that beat Horton, but he could not beat the crossbar, and Humble Lion was so close but no dice. The game was fairly even at this point until Tivoli got a free kick just outside the 18-yard box, and then when it was floated in by Fuller, I had no idea why Wilson was so free, and he was probably just as surprised as he miscued his header, but he was lucky enough that the ball bounced back in his favour and he tore it away to give Tivoli the opening lead. 1-0, and it was all coming down to poor defending and the set piece for the Lions. But before they could work out the inquest of what happened, they were hit with a 1-2 punch. Another ball floated in from the right hand side, caused some havoc in the box, and then when the ball reached out back to McCain, he unleashed a decent left-footed shot on target, but it was covered over by a Humble Lion player and into his own back of the net. 2-0 and happened in a blink of an eye. After that, the rest of the first half was all Tivoli, and they controlled proceedings immensely and was trying their best to stretch the lead. Eventually it came, a ball turned over in the midfield, McCain pounced on it, and then with a delightful through pass, he found a streaking Nelson, who made up for his earlier miss and tucked away through Samuel's legs and into the back of the net. 3-0 and basically feel that game over already. Tivoli was not having it though. They was trying to get a fourth right before the half, but his shot cracked off the crossbar and out for safety. So it was almost 4-0, but in the halftime it was 3-0. Second half now, it seemed that Dookie had a stern talking to with his team, and they came with much more spirit as they tried their best to get back early in the game. But the majority of the first half of the second half was not much being played in either final third, as the majority of the ball game was in the midfield, as both teams really wasn't carving out much chances. Until roughly the 70th minute, when the ball turned over from a Tivoli attack, and the Humble Lion started off a counter, and the game came all the way down to a decent save by Horton before his own player almost knocked it into his own goal. Over the crossbar for a corner, but from that corner, they found their consolation. Again, you feel that Horton should have done better on the square, but Chambers rose highest and got the ball into the back of the net. 3-1, and the Humble Lion don't feel like they're back in the game. But it seems Tivoli just enjoyed toying with our emotions, because before we could even assess what's going on, they went up the other pitch and Nelson went there and get his second to put this game to 4-1 and to bed. Humble Lion spirits and hearts were broken, and they never really get back in the game after that. So much so that Tivoli had time to find a fifth. Another ball floating from the right hand side, and Rodrigo Wellington took his time and composure to finish off Humble Lion for good. 5-1, and it was an impressive display in the rain. So, at some points the game was fairly even, and of course the Molynes was eventually blown away. How was it in terms of the numbers? Well, Tivoli had 55% of possession compared to Molynes 45. Tivoli managed 17 total shots in the game compared to 11 from Molynes. 7 shots on target for Tivoli Guns compared to 2 from Molynes. Tivoli had 75 dangerous attacks compared to only 59 for Molynes. 6 corners for Tivoli, 4 corners for Molynes. So yeah, let's start with Duki's men first. We always stated that they have a decent defense, but it really came unraveling in this game. Absolutely poor showing, especially in the end of that first half. It basically cost them the game. As for Tivoli, they keep marching on. Yes, they might not have a player that produces 17 goals this season, but the entire team should be feeling happy as the goals are shared around. Anyway, once again it finishes Tivoli Guns 5, Molynes 1. Okay, we're heading all the way to Dumbarton for the Portmore derby as Dumbarton was hosting Racing United. In terms of the lineup for the host team, Hamilton was back in goal as Hyatt is back on the bench, and once again Shantamai Taylor will be the man tasked of getting the goals. As for Racing United, there was also a change in goal, although it was forced, as Ashiki Swearing is in for the suspended Holmes, while Andre Campbell was back on the bench despite scoring a goal. Now, of course, leading up to this game, the big talk was all about Dumbarton's impressive home record and how Racing can beat that down. Well, Racing went ahead and tried to answer some of that question in the 6th minute with one of the best goals of the season already. Let's look at Ronaldo Biggs here. Bam! Straight from his own half into the back of the net, and Racing, just like that, was now leading 1-0. I could imagine the Dumbarton fans being stunned, but credit to the players, they didn't faze them that much and they came and controlled the game right after that. They were now coming and probing to try to get the equalizer as they dominated majority of the ball. Only problem though, they weren't really carving out any meaningful shots on target, and Racing was doing a good job on the counter to carve up some good chances of their own. They came close though, but both teams in the end couldn't find another goal in that first half. Second half, Dumbarton started just like at the end of the first, again dominating possession as they probe away looking for an equalizer. But Racing should have really got the second much early after a mix-up at the back between Hamilton and his defenders, letting substitute Hutchinson with a chance to pull off a Ronaldo Biggs of his own, but he managed to miss the goal and it went over the bar. Big chance for Racing to extend their lead, and Hamilton can blow aside a relief. But he could not rest for too long as Racing eventually got that elusive second goal. Dumbarton was robbed in midfield and a true pass was played in Hutchinson again, but this time he was on the ground and the ball managed to elude Hamilton and into the back of the net. 2-0, and yes people, you heard that right, 2-0, the first time we can set up by a Racing United team this season as they lead on the 66th minute. Dumbarton, just like they did after the first goal though, picked their heads up off the ground and started playing some good football. It was no avalanche of attacks coming Racing way, but Swain did a good job at keeping them out of his net. But the way the momentum shifted, he felt the goal was eventually coming. Some good skill here by Shaquem Powell freed up a good chance of a lucky bounce for himself, and he poured a good shot off the post and into the back of the net to cut Racing deficit down to 1. 2-1, and Dumbarton had all the momentum to find the equalizer. Racing was doing their best to keep them out, but Dumbarton will eventually get a lucky break of their own to tie things up. Off a Ricardo Thomas free kick, Swearing absolutely should have done better here, and the ricochet felt just right for Nakil Wright to put it away and give Dumbarton a deserved 2-2 draw in the end. So exhilarating game, and again we saw one of the best goals of the season, but how is it in terms of stats? Where Dumbarton had majority of possession, they have 53 compared to Racing 47. Dumbarton only managed 9 total shots in the game though, compared to only 8 from Racing. 4 were on target for the men in blue, 6 was on target for Racing United. Dumbarton only managed 45 dangerous attacks compared to 17 in terms of Racing United. So yeah, I have to give credit to Dumbarton here. Their great home record was about to be in tatters, but just like the last Portmore derby here against Portmore United, they dug deep and found a way to get the equalizer. So good showing from them in that part. As for Racing United, they should be feeling disappointed that they finally scored 2 goals in one game and it wasn't enough to give them the 3 points. But just like the rest of us, they can keep rewatching that Ronaldo Biggs goal to cheer them up. Again, it finishes Dumbarton 2, Racing United 2. We now move up the road to Fernita Park for our next game. It was supposed to be one of the biggest clash of the weekend as Portmore United was hosting Cavalier FC. In terms of the starting lineup, there was some good news for the host team as Romario Guthrie is back in the squad and he wears the captain armband. Youngster George Headley is in the starting lineup, but the best news of them all was that Siobhan Walsh was back from a long injury layoff to be back in the squad. As for Cavalier, they have their own injury issues, so there was no Stein in the squad whatsoever, and Carly Avery and Jamal Carvin were only on the bench. I should also mention Ronaldo Barrett was also not in the squad. So when you see a starting lineup like that, you figure Cavalier would be a bit more reserved out of the blocks, but they actually started the game much more brighter. They went at Portmore and caused them some headaches in defense and almost covered some 1 and 2 chances to get the early goal. Portmore rode through the storm though, and he started finding footing. Gucci was getting much more on the ball and was not having an influence on the play, but they really kicked into high gear when there was a mix-up at the back line for Cavalier, and Portmore almost got the early goal from a clumsy mistake. But momentum was finally on their side though, and they kept coming again, and eventually it led to the opening goal in the 23rd minute. Some good work on the right hand side by Portmore. They bring the ball back to the top of the D, and George Headley, free as a bird, hit a beautiful left-footed shot and it got past White and into the back of the net. 1-0, and you must be wondering if you're a Cavalier fan, where the heck was their midfielders? But as a fan, you should be happy to hear Cavalier did step up urgency after that and tried their best to come back in the game and was now causing trouble once more for Portmore. They created some decent half chances towards the end of the break, but they could not manage to find their equalizer right before the first half whistle. Second half though, Cavalier started very brightly again as they probe to try and get that equalizer. Portmore is now having a tough time finding the defeat of Romario Guthrie as Cavalier high press was now kicking into the gear. But that equalizer continued to elude them until they were given a gift. The ball was swinging from the corner and honestly I could not see what happened. The referee blew his whistle and pointed to the spot. It seemed that he was gesticulating that there was a two-hand push on a Cavalier player, and Emilia Rousseau clearly disagreed. Nonetheless, it was a penalty Cavalier, and youngster Christopher Ainsworth stepped up and tucked it away to give Cavalier parity. 1-1, and now the Duncan Destroyers were back in the game. But Portmore woke up after that, and all of a sudden Guthrie is back on the ball more often, and they were now taking the fight to Cavalier once again. They were probing away and coming close, and he could not get any more closer than this shot from Tyreek Zimenez that he hit it off the crossbar from the 6-yard box. Cavalier seemed that they were hanging on for dear life, but they themselves almost stole a goal right here on display, but they just could not manage to find that bottom lower corner. There will end up being one more big chance in the game after that, and it fell to the main man that has been missing for a couple months. Siobhan Walsh got a good 1-2 and then got the chance on the volley, but he hit it too high, and now Cavalier can escape Fernita Park with a share of the points. So it was a fairly decent game, but of course it ended 1-1. Let's look at the numbers real quick. Portmore had 58% of the possession compared to 42% from Cavalier. Portmore managed only 7 total shots in that game and only 5 was on the opposite end from Cavalier. Only 1 was on target for Portmore. Of course, the frame of the goal doesn't count, and 2 shots was on target for Cavalier. 69 dangerous attacks for the host team and only 76 dangerous attacks for Cavalier. So Portmore are now on a 5-game winless run, but they should take heart from this performance and look to build on it. In terms of Cavalier, they should just take the point and run. They only had 4 players on the bench as their team is clearly fatigued and banged up, so a point here on the road in a difficult venue should be a good thing at the end of the day. So we'll leave it right there. Portmore United 1, Cavalier FC 1. So we move from a top of the table clash to a relegation scrapper, as Vere Phoenix United was the hosting fellow strugglers Molynes United. In terms of the lineup, the cavalry was definitely here as majority of the Mona boys start again. Shakur Adair was back in goal, and there was also a return to the starting lineup for Demarin Harris. As for Molynes United, things couldn't start any worse as Javon Brown had to be pulled at the last minute due to injury in the warm-up for Gianni Golden, but I want y'all to keep an eye on number 17 schoolboy standout Devonde Davis. Now, when the game kicked off, Molynes, just like they did last week against Tivoli, started them much brighter. They had no problem going on Vere backline very early, and while they didn't carve out any major chances, it seemed that they spooked Vere into action. Vere had to come up to speed of the game quickly and was now trying their best to retaliate, but eventually won the battle of possession, but they weren't really carving out any dangerous attack. You could say the same for Molynes though, but that all changed in the 33rd minute. The ball fell to Davis on the right hand side of the 18-yard box, and being a left footer, he managed to cut it in a little bit and bust a good shot and beat Adair at his near post to give Molynes the 1-0 lead. This young man has the nickname Messi, and the GOAT himself would have been impressed with that strike. Vere came back a little bit in the game after that as both teams jostled for possession, and the first half petered out to a 1-0 lead for Molynes. But I would have loved to be a fly on the wall of the dressing room, because I have no idea what Hyde or Butler said to his players, because they started the second half completely flat. It was all Molynes taking over everything, and look at this second goal here. This absolutely schoolboy errors let in Davis and Molynes for their second of the match. 2-0, and Molynes has fully wrestled control. They absolutely dominated the ball from here on out, and it would not take too long before they eventually found the third. 63rd minute, and it was Davis again. That's the first hat-trick of the league season, and who expected it to come from Messi? 3-0, and Molynes were flying away. Vere made some changes in the attack, brought on Damian Thomas and Kitchen Gunn to try to get something back in the game, but honestly, they just seemed that they were not up for the fight. Look at this here. Wright was able to use his experience and get the ball right here, and managed to finish off Vere for good by adding a fourth. 4-0 in the 75th minute. A very deflated Vere Phoenix United who managed to cough up a own goal towards the end as Molynes will run out of Clarendon a 5-0 winner. So an absolute brutal display from the home team. How was it in terms of figures? Well, just look on possession first of all. Vere only managed 39% of the ball while Molynes had 61. Vere only managed 9 total shots in the entire game while Molynes had 15. 3 shots were on target for Vere, 8 were on target by Molynes United, only 48 dangerous attacks for the home team, 51 dangerous attacks for Molynes. 5 corners to the home team, 9 corners to the visitors. So yeah, before I even touch on Molynes, I must be asking, and I'm quite sure many people are, what the heck is going on with Vere Phoenix United? I said in the preview that the last 3-1 win in the first round over their opponents was their most complete game of the season, but this one was the complete opposite, as this was absolutely a dreadful performance. As for Molynes, the story of the day has to go to Davis. Well, sorry, I meant Messi. What a performance by the young man. There's nothing much more to say on this one. Molynes, deservedly so, run out of here 5-0 winners. Now we move on to our next game, to a side that should have dropped the same scoreline on Vere last week, and that would be Montego Bay, as they went all the way east to visit the Harbour View. In terms of starting lineup for the host team, Andre Fagan was back in the squad to try to give them some goals, and we get another look on Kevin Hall. As for MoBay, of course they will be without the injured Jordan Fletcher out of that lineup, but it was also surprising to see Shaniel Thomas on the bench, as the impressive Shamor Smith earned a start in the team. Now, when the game kicked off, it was a bit slow by both teams as they tried to get their feet wet. MoBay did seem to carve out 1 and 2 half chances very early, but Harveyview eventually by the 60th minute started to dominate the ball and was now playing some good football. They themselves were creating some decent chances, 1 and 2 that tested in hell, but of course their goal scoring woes continue. MoBay eventually did wake up a bit later on in the first half, and themselves were trying to come more into the game to get a goal before the halftime break, but it was nothing doing for both teams. Second half though, on the other hand, MoBay seemed more like the usual self a bit and was no dominating possession themselves. They was trying to eke out something on the opposite end to give them that goal that they needed, but again a resolute Harveyview defense was keeping them off the scoreboard. The Stars of the East themselves was trying to counter, but again they lacked any real spark in their attack and they couldn't get anything on the board themselves. The game was looking like it was going to be a 0-0 until a corner deep into the game was floated into the box, and veteran Brian Brown was on hand to knock the ball home and give MoBay a big 1-0 lead. Harveyview stepped up the urgency to try to get something very late on and came close, but they could not manage again to score, and MoBay would make the long trip back west with all 3 points. So it wasn't the greatest game ever on grass, but how was it in terms of stat sheet? Harveyview managed 46% of the possession compared to Montego Bay's 54%. Harveyview had 6 total shots in the entire game, while MoBay had 12. As I said, they stepped up in the second half. Harveyview only managed 1 on target, and you could say that is definitely their Achilles heel, while MoBay only managed 3 on target themselves. 40 dangerous attacks for Harveyview, 66 dangerous attacks for Montego Bay United. 5 corners for Harveyview, 8 corners for MoBay, and of course the last one was absolutely pivotal. So yeah, big 3 points from MoBay. They weren't at their best, but I can always hear that cliche quote ringing in my head that is a mark of a champion team to win when you're not playing at your best. While Harborview, man, they are definitely in trouble. They still cannot score to save their life despite changing coaches. Again, it finishes Harborview 0, Montego Bay United 1. On to our final game, which was the biggest clash on paper, and it was Wallows hosting Mount Pleasant at Jerusalem. In terms of the lineup for the host team, not much change really, but Mario Sims was a big surprise inclusion into the starting lineup. While Mount Pleasant seemed to have a more settled formation and lineup for their team to pick from, everybody was starting again from their last match, which means it's a strike tandem of Edwards and Bradford to lead the attack. No, Wallows entered this game after a disappointing draw in their last game, was hoping to give their fans something to cheer for early on in the game, but their plans were dashed by Shaquille Bradford. As early as the 5th minute, he was awarded this easy tap-in to give Mount Pleasant a very early 1-0 lead. Wallows did retaliate very quickly and sharp right after that, but nothing too testing for Shaquan Davis in goal. And just before Wallows had any ideas to get an equalizer soon, they were hit with a second goal. A good ball into the box down the right hand side, so the ball squared in front of the goalkeeper, and right at the back post was Kimani Bailey to give Mount Pleasant a 2-0 lead. That is now Bailey's 9th of the season, and he will now be in sole possession of first place in the Golden Boot race. Wallows was in all kind of disarray after that, so much so that Mount Pleasant was able to draw a penalty and a chance to go 3-up very early, but Captain Kimar Foster came good to spare the blushes of his team. 2-0 it remains, but Mount Pleasant was in full control. Second half though, Wallows tried their best to get back in it early, and they had a big chance here. The ball was floated over to Bygrave, who could not find a big toe on it to get it past Davis in goal. But confidence was definitely rising for the Wallows team, and they will try to come again, but their fire would be extinguished for good in the 63rd minute, where Ryan Edwards would find the killer blow. 3-0, and it's the Mount Pleasant fans dancing in the rain. Honestly, after that, the game was effectively wrapped up. Mount Pleasant was quite content to just hold on to the ball. Wallows wasn't doing much, as it seemed that their fight was extinguished, and the game will eventually just peter out to have deserved 3-0 win for Mount Pleasant. So a good game from the league leaders. How was it in terms of numbers? Wallows only had 40% of possession compared to 60% by Mount Pleasant. 3 shots in totality from Wallows in the entire game at home compared to Mount Pleasant 12. 0 shots were on target by Firehouse Nation compared to 7 from Mount Pleasant. 71 dangerous attacks from Wallows, 85 from Mount Pleasant, 1 corner from Firehouse Nation, and 6 corners from Mount Pleasant. So yeah, those numbers speak for themselves. Mount Pleasant absolutely dominated this game from the start to finish. It just seemed they can't put a foot wrong at the moment, and just like last year, everybody should be happy that this is a playoff league. As for Wallows, again they shy away at home against a fellow Big 6 team, and that might be an issue of concern. But it's something for them to think about come playoff time. Anyway, it finishes Wallows 0, Mount Pleasant 3. So a crazy Sunday of football action leaves us with the final table of 2024. Mount Pleasant leads with 34 points at the top of the table after 15 games. Montego Bay are 3 points behind at second place with 31 points. Arnett is also on 31 points in third. Cavalier is not far from the pack with 27 points from their 15 games. And Wallows run out the top 5 with 26 points from their 15 games. Portmore is still fairly safe in that 6th position with 23 points. Chapelton not far now with 19 points in their 7th position. The new coach Bongs have helped Chapelton immensely. They're up to 8th with 16 points. Molynes a slide all the way back to 9th with 15 points. Racing is looking good with 15 points in 10. Molynes are the big climbers though, jumping 4 spots up to 11th with 13 points. Vere is still too close to relegation in 12 with 13 points. Harborview are now in relegation with 12 points from their 15 game, and the last place team is from Clarendon, and that's Molynes who are on 10 points. But alright, that's it all here on this final review show for the year. Hopefully we see you all again in 2025. Otherwise, please like, subscribe and share as we look to keep you up to date on all things in the Jamaican Premier League leading up to the final in May. Otherwise, for great JPL content, you're already at the right place. JPL fan. YouTube, big up yourself.